Hello, everyone. Welcome back to DrDarnise's House of Magic, Religion, and Conjure. And this is part 2 of the video I just made regarding your life in review as a spiritual practice. I think that's what I'm gonna call it. Meaning, are you in a place where you can look at things in your life and recognize the working of spirit? The working of the universe, the ancestors, the deities, however you may understand them. Are you in a place where you are conscious and aware, woke about how your spirituality is functioning and has been over the years of your life? And so I made a video, part 1, where I started to share some of my personal experiences where I began to notice or, wake up like, this is exactly what I need. And so I'm inviting you also to look at your life like that, because we really are always being guided. And but we have to know. I mean, it just gets easier if you know, because then you have more confidence, you have more faith that you're being heard and helped, by universal forces. If you can't see it, it's harder, and we may feel like we're, in a very random universe. And so I'm taking these couple of videos to ask you, are you aware of how Spirit has been guiding you all along? So if you didn't see that video, go back to part 1, and I share, one of the mentors that I found when I was living in New York in my early 20s, and stumbled across this great mentor. But today I wanted to continue and talk about making decisions from faith and not fear. Because mostly we make decisions from fear, right? Even though we say we want this or that, or we say that we're ready for a change, we're ready for enlightenment, awakening, but in reality we're not, because it almost always means a big change to your life into what you know as normal. It's something that's going to stretch you past your comfort zone. So we're not always ready for the thing that we say we want. And that's okay, but you do it anyway because of faith, or because the larger vision pulls you, right? So there's a saying that pain pushes until the vision pulls. Pain pushes until the vision pulls. So you'll have, uncomfortable situations pushing you. Do you need to quit that job to go onto your path? Because if you really need to quit that job to go onto your path, but you're not quitting that job because you're afraid, then you might lose that job. The universe will just remove it from you, and you're like, oh my God, now what am I going to do? Well, you'll be in a new space, and you'll have to come up with something else to do, or a relationship. So I mentioned those two things in particular because that's what I wanted to share with you from my life this time in part 2. One is a career change. So I mentioned last time in part 1 that my first career was in fashion, and that's what I majored in college as an undergraduate at Kent State in Ohio. And after that, I moved to New York, and I was working in menswear and manufacturing, and it was all, it was okay. But I didn't really like it, and it was totally unfulfilling. And for, quite a few years, I didn't think, I didn't know what else to do. And as I was telling someone earlier today, it's when I had my quarter life crisis at about 25. I had my quarter life crisis because I knew that I was not in my purpose. I didn't know what exactly to do, but I knew what I was doing was not it, and it was making me have a little bit of depression because I couldn't really find myself. I was just going through the motions of life, and it was very unfulfilling. So anyway, I did that for a while, and I job hopped in different companies and whatever, and it still is not that, right? It's not that. You can change your job in the same industry and you realize it's not this. You can keep jumping from one relationship to another, but when you're avoiding your real truth, it won't matter because you'll still feel unfulfilled. Life has a way of doing that, to wake you up, to help you wake up. None of those external things are going to suffice. It's not going to be enough when it's not enough. So I don't know, how many years was that? About 4 or 5 years in fashion before I realized I've got to change this up. It was very scary, of course, and I didn't know exactly what I was going to do, but it dawned on me that my life really needed to be focused around spirituality. And the closest I could get was, okay, I'm going to go back to school and get my master's degree. I'm going to go to seminary and I'm going to get a master's degree. I didn't know what that really meant or where that would take me, but I decided that I was going to do it. And, it was time for me to leave that world of fashion. It's time for me to get out, and I had my plan about how I was going to do it. But I kept saying, in my job, the job I had at that time, I got to get out of this job. I got to get out of this job. I don't know. I can't stand this job. And y'all know the power of words, the power of your intention. It was a mantra. I didn't realize that I really had created a mantra. I got to get out of this job. And so I lost my job before I was really, set, what I thought was set. Of course, it seemed all kind of crazy at the time and scary. But, it worked out because it allowed me to get on purpose where I needed to be. I was about to go to school, back to school in that fall. So I was like, okay, well, let me take this time to get myself ready. And, I could manage on whatever money I had, or, whatever. I could manage, even though it was kind of scary, and how close, it could be close to the bone sometime. Anyway, so I started my master's program in theological studies, and that led me to really deepen my sense of, this is my path. This is not even exactly it, but this is my path, and it's leading me to where I want to go. So it felt great. It felt really fulfilling, and I had professors there who then guided me to continue on and do a PhD. And so I did that. So I was there for two years, and then I moved to California, to Berkeley, to do graduate work, PhD work. But it was, there's a lot of jumps in there. There's a lot of faith in there, because I could have just stayed on that path. And if I'd stayed on that path in fashion, my goal then was to be an executive in the fashion industry. And, I have, friends of mine who have stayed on that path, and they made a lot of money, multi six figures as they rose up the ranks. But I just couldn't ever imagine myself doing that. I mean, once I got in it, it was so stifling. It was so suffocating. I couldn't manufacture enough passion for that as my career, my vocation. It was just, no. But it was scary because I didn't know exactly how things were going to work out. And what I know for sure is, God, whatever God you serve, honor, will never show you the whole picture at once. It's only, one step at a time. And in faith, you step forward and you say yes to the thing that presents itself at the moment. And then you get the next piece. And then you get the next piece. So it's never going to be revealed to you 100%. So if you're that person who's waiting, I wish I just knew, you're never going to know the whole thing, because a lot of it is dependent upon what you are willing and able to do in this moment, right? So if you're really willing and able, then do the thing that's before you to do now, and then another opportunity will show itself that matches. It's the next logical step. So that was one instance. And then around career, and so as I said, I've kind of summed it up and left out some of the gritty detail, but suffice it to say, it was hard. Like anything, when you make a big change to your life, it's hard. You don't know what's going to happen next, but in faith, I tried to ignore the fear. The fear was real and the fear was there, but my vision was so much bigger that I had to follow it. To not follow it was misery. It was utter misery. So in a way, there was no choice. And then secondly, and then maybe in the last, 10 years, I had a relationship with a man who was a very prominent person here in LA. And At a certain point, and so it was a good relationship for a while until it wasn't. But if you've ever had a kind of relationship where you stay too long, where it's really time to make a change, but you don't, and then things start to go badly. And so that's what happened to me, and I wrote about it actually in my book 40 something. You can go on Amazon and search my name, or just search 40 something. Well, I suggest you search my name because I think 40 something pulls up a whole lot of other stuff. 40 something, 10 radical lessons for women on how to live and love without losing themselves. And I could write that because I had been in a relationship where I was losing myself, right, with this, high-powered director guy. So there came a point when it's like, no, it's time to go. It's time to go. This is not helping me fully step into the next level of my own evolution. And I believe very strongly in that. You always have to be willing to step into the next stage of your own evolution. And so I realized it, and it was very suffocating to stay there, even though it was, it had its perks. It was fun. It was exciting. We were on the red carpet, and it was all that, the whole celebrity deal, travel and whatnot. But that feeling of, this is distracting. This is distraction. You got to do something else. And so again, I made a leap, and it was very difficult. It was a very difficult thing to pull out of that relationship. In a way, it felt like a marriage because of how intertwined we were in that relationship. And, people assumed we were married. I'm sure there are people now who still think we're married. Or not. Anyway, it was difficult to pull that apart. And then to also think about my own identity apart from him. Right? And so sometimes that happens when you're in a relationship with someone. Who are you apart from that relationship, or for a job for that matter? Who are you away from your job title, your company? Who are you? And so I felt like the ancestors were pulling me always to, who are you? Do not lose yourself in any other kind of situation. Ooh, looks like you're losing yourself here, so pull out. And that became such a real thing for me. I had to just end the relationship. And I mean, those are a couple more examples of my following spirit, following that strong spiritual push. It wasn't even a nudge, it was a push. This is what you must do now. And, having the experience of hearing, having certain dreams and, hearing it like loudly in my ear, go now, go now. And like, okay, I gotta go now, right? So anyway, those are a couple more experiences that I was sharing with you in terms of how I got here in my spiritual path and how I've been paying attention to what I'm supposed to do. So again, I hope that you will share with me how you got here. And I'll just mention again about the course that I want to offer and asking if you are interested in that kind of course, African American Religions, in which we will talk about the history. We'll do some Christianity, because that's the jumping off point for many African Americans, and then how we got to doing other things. Black nationalism, for example, the Nation of Islam, Moor Science Temple, all kind of innovations. Daddy Grace, Father Divine, Reverend Ike, people like that. Our history is really rich. It's really rich, and it's really interesting to pay attention to how early leaders were integrating things. And for people who didn't really know, they didn't know how the African was coming in there. They don't realize how African Pentecostalism is. This idea of catching the Holy Spirit is not that different from being mounted by the Loa. The African Loa. So it's all kind of juicy tidbits like that, and I would like to offer that to you in a course. So as I said in part 1, if you're interested in that kind of course, let me know in the comments. And it's going to be over several weeks. We'll meet for an hour and a half via Zoom. There'll be some tuition. I hope I didn't scare you last time when I said how much the tuition is at the university. Nothing like that. But, be prepared to pay some money for it, because, there's reciprocity of energy. If I pour out energy, then I'd like to receive some energy back from you. So first of all, your interest and your commitment to completing that course. If it's 4 to 6 weeks or something, one time a week. Anyway, let me know. This video is getting kind of long. Thank you once again for being here. Like, share, subscribe, all of that good stuff. Hit the notification bell and you'll know when I come back with another video also. So as always, I appreciate you and our new subscribers and all that. And that's it for now.